Yeah, no, Grogu needs a little helmet. If he doesn't get his little helmet, then he's not a true foundling.
Or giving up on Disney at that point. Like, come on.
Already more than the Smithfields family has given up on the Bridgeport Police Department. Ayo.
Here, I got your transition right there. There you go.
All right. So, have you guys heard about this Lauren Smithfields case? No?
Not at all.
All right. So, here are just some details. In early December, she went on a bumble date with this guy. His name's Matthew LaFontaine. And he came over to her house. It was like 9:30 at night. They were drinking tequila, playing games, watching a movie, and eventually she fell asleep. He said that he carried her to the bed. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, he woke up, went to the bathroom. He heard her snoring, went back to sleep, and woke up at 6:30, and she was not responsive. She was when the medics arrived, she was they said that she was dead for about an hour. She found her with blood around her nose, and there was a blood stain in the bed. So that day, this guy, he was working with investigators, and they asked him a bunch of questions, and they let him go. But they didn't hold him. They didn't collect any physical evidence from the scene. There was the blood stain on the bed that wasn't taken into evidence. No physical evidence at all has been taken into the forensic lab. There was a used condom. There was pills found in the trash can of her apartment. And it wasn't until Christmas Day, so this happened December 12th, Christmas Day on the 25th, they were supposed to do Christmas at Lauren's house, her family. There was a note on the door that says, if you're looking for Lauren, call this number. The mom is the first person to go because she hasn't been responding to text messages. And she finds out that her daughter died almost 2 weeks before. She is told, stay there. The detective will come and meet you in 30 minutes. She waits for over an hour. No show from the detective. She calls. No other details were given to her, and they actually hang up on her and they tell her not to call back until they call her back. When they clean their house, her apartment out on the 29th, they find the used condom in the trash can with the other pills. None of it was taken into evidence, and now the family, as of the 21st, is suing the police department for negligence. They're saying that they didn't investigate this case properly. Now, could it have been the coroner's report says she died? It was an accidental death. There was fentanyl, alcohol, and 2 other drugs in her system. It could have been she was partying it up. She mixed her drugs and her alcohol, and that's how she died. Or it could be more nefarious than that. However, we're not going to know because they didn't collect any physical evidence. In the crime scene investigation, they didn't even start that until a week after her death. So the first detective that was on the case, his name's Kevin Connon. He has some connection with LaFontaine, but the stuff that I found on it is very vague. It's super vague, about their connection. But he's being investigated by IA currently, so those details probably are kept under a tight lid until they know. And the family requested an independent autopsy body. According to them, she's not a drug user. She did drink, but she was like this young 23-year-old. She actually, her 24th birthday was this past 23rd. So she was just a young girl, having fun. And she invited somebody that she didn't know over to her house. So a number of things could have happened. It could have just been the worst stir of consequences ever. This happened, her bubble date woke up and the girl that he just met is dead. Imagine being freaked out about that. Or it could be something more, but we don't know because no physical in. Even if this was just a crazy coincidence and it was something that was just so horrible, horribly tragic, you should still collect the evidence to rule out anything else. We look at cases like Gabby Petito, right? That it was a high-profile missing case, but it gained so much national attention. But cases like this, they're not even doing the basics of investigation. that's pathetic and that's sad. So today it was announced that the two detectives that were initially involved were suspended, on admin leave with pay, of course. But the family is, like wanting more. Like, we want justice for our daughter. I mean, I think about it in terms of my family. I would want to know what happened, even if it was something tragic. I just want to make sure everything else is rolled out. So that's kind of where things are right now in Lauren's case. I feel really badly for her family. Like they're requesting the second autopsy. I mean, like just based on how this case was handled from the get-go, had it not gained the attention it has from celebrities or social media, we may not even know her name to begin with, and they may not have even done anything. So my question is like, why? Like, there's protocols in place. Why were those protocols followed? Why wasn't physical evidence gathered at the scene? You can speculate, oh, it was an accidental death, but you don't know that until you do an autopsy and you examine the evidence around them. So that's my soapbox. Thank you for listening.
No, and it is negligence
Yeah.
because the family wasn't even notified. For me on the family on that part too is like, why didn't the family push harder to see or talk to her before Christmas Day? You're supposed to have Christmas at her house, yet y'all haven't talked to her or, went over there week to 2 weeks beforehand. Just to be like, hey, need any help? Need help prep? Anything like that. But aside from the fact, you go back to the negligence because they're going to say, oh, it's an accidental death from the overdose. We'll go back to her apartment. Does she have any drugs? Can you find any of drugs? Turn that bitch upside down looking for more drugs. And if there's no drugs in that apartment, then yes, that's when we definitely start looking into the Bumble date. And why didn't the Bumble date say anything? And that's what going to be my next question is, did he say anything about drugs that they used or he used, or, oh, I saw her doing this, but I don't know, I was kind of suspicious about it. Obviously he wasn't if he was still in bed with her at 6 a.m. the next morning.
Based on what I've read, he said
Right,
that yeah, he said that he didn't say anything about drug use. He just said that they were drinking a little bit, eating some food and watching a movie and just playing games. Like a little low key, get to know you hangout. But he did say, like in the original incident report, that she left the apartment to get something from her brother that night. And then she came back upstairs. So, like, my follow-up question to that is, what did the brother bring her? And what is the brother's report of that night? Like, did that happen?
Was it her brother that she went and saw, or was that just the excuse?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah,
Yeah.
it could have been.
Yeah, and if her brother lived close by, why the fuck didn't he check? Anyway, just more to prove that something nefarious is going on here.
But I think too, like I don't talk consistently to like my family members every day. Like sometimes like a week or two goes by before I talk to them like on a one-on-one basis. So maybe it was just like caught up in the holidays. We're like, oh yeah, like why aren't you answering my text messages? Christmas is tomorrow. Or maybe I don't. You never know. But to find out that way, like you're in her apartment, her license is there. Like she probably has an emergency contact on her lead for the apartment. Why wasn't her
That's
family
the big red flag that the police aren't doing their job right, because the next of kin was not notified. Like that's number one. Is something happens to somebody, you notify the next of kin.
Mm-hmm.
there? Yeah, absolutely. You have some sort of database. That was just really negligent, and I feel for her family. I hope they get the justice they deserve, or at least some closure of what happened to Lauren. If not, I mean, gosh, like a whole week had gone by, and then the investigation barely started. Who knows what evidence was lost in that time frame?
Oh, yeah.
Especially with landlord going in, mother going, family going. Like 2 weeks later, like that's crazy.
Completely contaminated crime scene at this point.
I was gonna say, yeah. At this point, you can't say that they handled the crime scene in a proper manner.
No, they absolutely can't. So I'll be following this case and I'll be posting updates on my Twitter about it. I know her family is stirring a little bit of movement. You know, like when it comes to like things like this, like it's so tough, like not even from a race perspective, just like from like a general like citizen perspective of like trusting that your stuff will be handled appropriately. And yeah, maybe it is just a few bad apples that don't do their job, but these are people's lives, like, and this is their legacy, and what she's going to be remembered by is for hooking up on a bumble date, and like that's horrible to treat her legacy that way when she was so much
Yeah.
more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Way to go, whatever city name police department. What was the police department? The city?
Bridgeport Police in Connecticut.
Way to go, Bridgeport. Fucking it all up.
Especially in Connecticut, you know what I mean? I guess they're probably not used to like crime there.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's more white collar crime than anything.
Right.
Like,
Just murder over a will.
And I like how if
Yeah.
you Google her name, the only thing it shows, which is good, is that the two detectives have been suspended. But that's literally all you're seeing about it. You're like, oh, just the detectives have been suspended. There's no new updates with her.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd make them work this unpaid. That's just me.
Well, see, we allow police to form unions, and then the unions don't allow you to discipline or do anything to an officer in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So
And it absolutely could be, you know, like maybe she had a darker past than anybody expected. And, you know, like people hide things all the time. It could be anything, but her family should have closure, period,
yeah.
of
Oh
what
yeah.
was going on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I feel for the family in this one. Like, that's really unfortunate.
They finally received their confirmation when reaching out to the state's medical examiner. That is not okay.
No. If anything over the last 2 years we realized is that we got to start paying a lot more attention to the police departments, and we need reforms in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Yes. 100%.
Well, that wraps up another great episode, and don't forget to join our amazing and supportive community on Discord.
In our Discord, you can find game nights, watch parties, food picks, Dungeons and Dragons, and more. What's not to love about that? We have a little something for everyone. Head over to our website, officialmillennials.com, and you'll find more info, especially our featured gamer of the week.
Speaking of something for everyone, we have a book club. We read a book almost every month and talk through it together. We also have a special perk for our subs to discuss other books in a series called Chapter 2.
Don't forget to swing by YouTube and drop us a follow at Official Millennials. You can also find us on Twitter at MillsOfficial. We appreciate all the support, and y'all have a good one.
This is an Official Millennials production.